He touched her arm to calm her, then moved into the aisle to go forward to the priest. A small cloud of dust rose from the splintered altar. The odor of incense spread in the hot air around him as John kneeled at the priest's side, searching for a pulse. Steve Knott, the chief usher and head of the parish council, rushed by him to get to the phone in the church sacristy. Later, after the paramedics had come and gone, John stood with Steve in the entryway of the church, watching the parishioners go home. The young woman John had seen in his pew walked by with the other parishioners leaving the church. She suddenly stopped against the press of the others and looked back at the altar for a moment, as if she wanted to say one last message to Father Tom. Her glasses could not hide the freckles around her eyes. After a few moments, she turned back toward the sunny street. As she passed John, he could see that her cheeks were wet from tears. Father Tom's bright and fresh diagrams and floor plans of the magnificent cathedral project underway in Baltimore surrounded John and Steve at the sides of the entryway. The colorful architectural drawings were carefully exhibited on shiny metal easels. John noticed that the hospital team had jarred one of the easels as they exited with the stretcher. He reached down and adjusted the leg where it had stabbed into a large crack in the floor. Steve watched John do this with a frown on his face. John knew Steve was no fan of parish money being collected for a Baltimore project. Father Philip should be back soon, Steve said as John stood back up. He did the Mass at the other church this morning. He showed John several small yellow pieces of metal in his palm and said, "These fell from the altar. Ever seen them before?" John inspected them and said, "Strange thing for a man like him to have. I never saw him with any jewelry. Might be gold. They are engraved, see?" He pointed to the words, Father Thomas Sweeney, etched on one side of each small rectangle. "Better keep them with the altar stuff. Father Tom must have meant them to be there." "Are they worth anything?" Steve said as he put them back in his pocket. John said, "They feel about a gram in weight. I'd say $50 a piece if they're gold." A few minutes later, John started towards his office. The shade of the street felt good on his bare legs and arms as he walked. He was Father Sweeney's executor. If the old man died, he'd have to pull the file and be ready for any legal questions.